there's a difference between taking a week's break and then the kind of more flexible working of, you know what, I know what I've got to do this week, but I'm going to take Tuesday morning off, and I'm going to leave a bit early every afternoon this week because my parents are over from whatever. That's different from having a break. So we're going to be talking about a subject that lots of people talk about. And actually, when you mention it to people, if they've never experienced it before, they look at you as if to say, are you crazy? But it's clearly not unique, and it's been going on for a while. And that is the subject of unlimited vacation policies or unlimited holiday policies, whatever you want to call it. And lots of people have done this. Netflix famously have an unlimited. I don't know if they still do, but
they may have changed it. Yeah. I
was reading a book the other day by the guy that started Patagonia clothing, called "Let My People Go Surfing." I'm just about to spend some time in LA, so it's quite cool because it's sort of set out in LA, some of it. But he was saying, if you're a surfer, if you're a serious surfer, you don't plan to take next Tuesday off at 4 p.m. to go surfing. You just go surfing when the waves are there. And he said to tell the people that work for him who were passionate about surfing as well, that you couldn't go off and surf. As long as the work was done, I didn't really care that people wanted to go off and surf because there was suddenly great waves on a Thursday morning or something. And I think that's kind of where we've come from. I think it's partly like we couldn't be bothered to kind of get into that whole sort of tracking what people were doing. Are they at their desk at 9 o'clock? Are they still at their desk at 6 o'clock? That ridiculous thing that you have at Christmas where people say, oh, well, I've only got half a day's holiday left over, so I'm going to come in on the 26th.
Sit there for half a day.
Or 27th at least, maybe. 27th in the afternoon and stay there till the 30th or 31st or something with nothing to do. So all of that kind of stuff. And we very much thought, well, actually, and we've said it before, we hire bright people, responsible people who want to do a good job. And as part of that, you trust that they'll do that good job. And that doesn't really require us to sit on their shoulders and say, are you there? What are you doing today? Have you turned up? The main thing is we trust that people will do the job that they need to do, and they'll figure it out where, and if they want to go on holiday or if they want to take a morning off or they want to come in late or whatever, as long as they get the work done. So that was our starting point. Now we're, how many years in now? Three or 4 years into ScreenCloud. And we've had this policy from the beginning, and I'm not sure it's completely successful. It's definitely got its cons as well as its pros, but I thought we would just talk about that today, about where it's been good for us and where the shortfalls are. And we haven't really got a conclusion about what we're going to do next, but we've got some ideas.
Well, I think if you start with the good, because may as well. Otherwise, why entertain it as an idea at all if there's no real obvious benefit? I think the good is around the culture that we wanted to create. This policy has helped support that. And that is that culture of it's about what you achieve, not necessarily the hours that you work. It's about kind of knowing that it's okay if you need to go off to do the dentist one morning. You don't need to randomly book half a day of holiday for this, which it seems crazy, but that's pretty much how almost every company works. It's about not, as you say, being at your desk necessarily at 9 a.m. or whatever. And actually, if you want to start early in the morning, some people like to start work at kind of 7:30, but then you can leave earlier. That's fine.
Yeah,
it's and especially now that things like, and I mean, I don't know about US cities so much, but I imagine it's not far different. But the peak hours of commuting in London are genuinely pretty unpleasant. To the point where, say, my local tube station, subway station, for about an hour of the day, you have to queue just to get into the station, then queue all the way down to the platform, miss 5 or 6 trains before you even get onto it, which is also packed, and
everyone getting really stroppy.
It's deeply unpleasant. Now, if you go earlier, good news. It's fine, and if you go a bit later, it's also fine too. And I think if you don't have a horrific forced commute, twice a day, you're definitely going to have a more favorable opinion of your work and probably be in a better attitude to do better work, to be more creative, whatever it might be. And also I think it shows more trust, which is what we've always said we wanted to do. We want, I'm sure it is open for people to sort of slightly take the piss a bit, but basically it's there to say, look, we trust you, we like you, we believe in you, and we don't really want to big brother you.
And if you're not performing, that will become apparent, and it won't be because
it will be very obvious.
You're taking too many holidays. It'll be something else.
And everyone knows. Anyone who has none of the jobs that we have inside of ScreenCloud are where if you stood there for another hour, it would make a huge difference. It's about the quality, right? I mean, it's about getting this done quickly, efficiently, and to the best of your ability. And if you've got good experience or good ideas, or you're really engaged, if you're writing something, if you're really into it and really engaged, you could write that quite fast to quite a high quality. But if you're really kind of not feeling it, or a bit sort of sick of your job, that same 1-2 pages could take hours because it's sort of typing away, but you're not really there. And so that's kind of what the point of that policy was there to do. So that's worked brilliantly. And I think that's one of the things people genuinely appreciate the most about working here.
Yeah, it's more of a kind of cultural, it's like a philosophy as much as a policy. It's kind of like, look, we're doing this because we trust you, and we trust that people who work here do so because they want to do a good job. And, I have a fundamental belief that people come to work, obviously we all come to work to get paid, but I think if that was your only motivation, you'd go and work in a bank or something. But I think most people want to do something that they feel is challenging, worthwhile, they can learn things, or it challenges them in other ways, rather than just doing as little work as possible and getting paid as much as possible.
And also, I think not every business could necessarily operate like this, but because strangely, one of the things I was worried about when we started ScreenCloud was that you basically never be able to switch off, and to a degree that is still sometimes a problem. But because we have customers all over the world and in different vertical markets. So, retail and hospitality, like the weekend is a peak time, and the evenings are peak times often. And say in corporate communications and more, kind of your regular businesses, as it were, your business hours businesses, they're during the week. And so in effect, by serving all those markets in multiple time zones, it meant that we always have customers always contacting us sort of 24/7. Yeah. And I thought, this is like a kind of a jail sentence where you can, but actually I found more that what it means is because it never ends, that means you really just sort of dip in and out of it, because you're never going to get to the end of the day and have solved all of your customer emails, because as soon as you leave for an hour, there'll be more. Yeah. But the expectation, unlike, say, working UK business hours, is that you have to be there.
Yeah. I think if you compare it to a consultant, when we were a consultancy, when we were an agency, I felt the obligation really that I had to be, even though, well, I guess as we were doing pitches and we were running projects, especially in the early days when we were doing a bit of everything before we sort of hired project managers and things. But you felt the obligation. Well, I certainly felt the obligation to be at my desk at 9:30 and not leave before 6 o'clock because what if a client phoned? And but you at ScreenCloud don't get that at all. Obviously, partly because of the roles we do, I guess, but partly because, as you say, it's a different type of relationship that we have with customers. And it means that actually you can be a lot more creative about the way that you structure your day. And I know for myself, for me, it works best if I get up early and I do some work, like straight away, maybe an hour and a half before anything really happens, before anyone's really online. And then I'll stop for a bit and I might go for a run or I might then commute to work during that time and pick up again. That wouldn't work in the old days, unless I was literally getting into the office super early and then leaving super late. But I'm able to kind of do it, and then I'll probably, because I live outside of London, I'll leave a bit earlier. But then I can work on the train. I can do some more work in the evening. My day's longer, but it's punctuated by periods of not working, and I think that's really good for my sanity. And
I think it shows that you can blend your life. Now, I suppose there's an argument saying, well, you're never truly switching off, but I think I mean, personally, I'm like you. I prefer the blended version of like, not that sort of guilty feeling of I'm in work hours now. I can't do anything for my life.
Yeah.
But now I'm out of work hours, so it's like work doesn't exist to me anymore. That just feels. I mean, in this highly connected world in which we're in, it doesn't feel realistic to be operating like that. So rather than completely fight that, may as well make that work for you. And at the essence, that's where that, as you said, I think the word you used there was pretty accurate actually, is a philosophy rather than a policy. But that's where this unlimited holiday policy was from that. So I suppose moving on to the negative side, it's actually in terms of genuine time off, as in like a block of time rather than just a few hours here and there for whatever might have crept up in your own life. What generally happens with unlimited policies, especially in a startup where people feel the need to, and there is there's a lot to do. There's always more on than the number of people really to do it. So there's a lot of pressure to more grow all this kind of thing. Is that people basically just don't really take any holiday or don't take anywhere near enough as they would in, say, more of a kind of classic corporate job.
And I think that probably comes to an extent from the top as well. I mean, I had a quick look so we use Bamboo as our HR tool. I had a quick look today. So where are we? At the end of July. So we're 7 months into it. And I looked through and I'd say maybe half the people are probably have taken about half their... If you said like a standard, well, it isn't, but it's say 20 days is your standard minimum. I think maybe about half the people on there have taken about half of that. Right. Well, it varies. Some people have taken more, but there's quite a lot of people who've taken less, quite a lot less. Yeah. So actually, and out of the three of us, you and me have both taken 7 days, and Luke's taken 6. And it might also be that people aren't always updating Bamboo, because the reason that we get people to track, even when we're saying unlimited holiday, we ask people to track it because we need to have an idea of, not because we're sort of chasing people or judging people. We want to make sure that people are taking enough holidays, and also in the UK especially, there's a statutory minimum amount of holidays that people have to be able to take, and if they leave early. If they leave midway through the year and they haven't taken all of that, then we need to be able to know how much they haven't taken, so we need to pay them. But what I'm not seeing at the moment is people taking, tons and tons and tons of holidays, and which is good because we don't want to take tons and tons. But actually, what we really don't want to do is see people feeling culturally obliged not to take holidays because they think it will reflect badly on them, or they don't think it's a cultural kind of norm. And then you end up in this situation which is exactly the opposite of what we wanted, is people kind of feeling stressed and burnt out and, under pressure and thinking, I can't. I mean, I was talking to someone earlier and they said, would I feel comfortable taking 3 weeks off to go to Mexico? Probably not. And he's like, okay, we are a startup, but actually that's quite, I mean, and I don't think that would be universal because some people have taken large amounts of holiday. Yeah.
I mean, that said, I kind of tend to agree. I think, don't join a startup if you want to take tons and tons of holidays. Just, go and work for public sector or something.
But if we're saying it's unlimited holiday, we should be at least let people be able, if someone says, look, I am so exhausted, I'm going to take 3 weeks off.
Yeah, it's okay.
You shouldn't be like, oh, well, yeah, you can technically, but we're going to
honeymoon and stuff like they're kind of unique sort of things. I mean, the way I still think though, if someone says I'm going to take a month off, I mean, that will hurt the company, right? That will hurt your colleagues. Like, you just know that's true. Yeah. So I probably would be saying, I mean, from my opinion, I'm like, one-off thing, it's okay, but I personally, I probably wouldn't do it. Because I think it loads extra pressure on other people, and I don't think that's right. But my philosophy on it is you should be taking regular breaks. I think realistically you should take 1 week every 3 months, something around that. Maybe you have a slightly longer one, Christmas or whatever, or you've got a slightly longer trip, you're seeing family further away, whatever it might be. But I think it's about taking regular breaks. A week off. None of your colleagues are going to be, everyone can cope with that for a week. A bit of, I'll take your leads for a bit, or I'll cover that project for you. That's not going to kill anyone by any stretch. You could even just put it on pause, you know. I think 3 weeks, you know, I think there's no problem doing it. If someone was regularly doing that, I'd sort of question that if this was the right fit, because I certainly wouldn't be in the same team as someone who's like, right, I'm off on 3-week holiday again. Here's all my work. I'd be like, oh.
Yeah. And then there's, you know, one of the other things that you read is that some people will take more holidays if they can afford to take more holidays. You know, if they're being paid more than their colleagues. There's a whole load of, you know, it's just a really difficult thing. Is you want it to be fair. You want it to. I mean, we've always said, look, you know, don't dump on your colleagues, but at the same time, we've never ever pulled anyone up saying you're taking too much holiday.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't really happened. And the only people who have taken the longer stretches is usually for like we're getting married and we want to take, and that just makes loads of sense to me. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. You know, it's a unique moment in your life. Like makes loads of sense. Yeah, or I'm going off to New Zealand to, you know, that's
I can't
a freaking long way. You're not going to go for 5 days. It doesn't make sense. So I think just stuff like that where it's just like, yeah, that totally makes sense. It's like, it's totally understandable. It's on a human level. It's like, it's totally normal.
I suppose the other thing, and again, we haven't really seen this. I'm trying to think if Luke maybe did this in the past, is you could take an extended holiday, but like spend some of that time working as well, just because of the way we're structured.
Well, look, we have someone right now who, like Verka, she's in Russia and she's studying, right? She's working the morning and then she's studying in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that's kind of like, it's a hybrid, right? That's a hybrid holiday. She's not working full hours, but she's doing this thing she wants to do. It's going to take, you know, taking, you don't learn Russian in a week. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm thinking back in the agency days, we had, you know, guys that were from New Zealand who maybe went to New Zealand for 2 months, worked for one of the months, and then had a holiday for another month. But part of that was because they'd had a period of extremely full-on work in the UK. So it is a difficult one. It's like about getting that balance.
Yeah.
But also, you know, having that situation where we don't. So right now, the way we've been talking, you could be listening to that as a member of staff going, okay, so the rules are 4 weeks. You know, it's that sort of thing.
Well, I think probably where we're going to get to on this is that we will have to crystallize it more so that the people who aren't taking enough take a bit more. Well, we don't really have an issue with the people taking too much. It's just not been an issue. But you know, and I don't think it ever really will be. I don't think.
I think, and I think you mentioned this earlier, maybe not during this podcast, but before we were talking, is that there's a difference between taking a week's break and then the kind of more flexible working of, you know what, I know what I've got to do this week, but I'm going to take Tuesday morning off and I'm going to leave a bit early every afternoon this week because my parents are over from whatever. That's different from having a break. Yes. But I think that for me is something that I would really value, and I kind of do value about the fact that I can work at a company where I can, you know, if I need to do something, as long as I know what I need to get done. And this isn't about doing the minimum as well. It's kind of thinking about where, you know, it's not just
it's about what do you want to achieve this week.
Yeah, it's kind of like you still want to feel like you've not just done the basic minimum. And I think again, if that's all you're doing, then there's a problem there. So it's about properly adding value, but at the same time, it's not feeling that you're a slave tied to your desk between specific hours. And if you can, for me, that's something that I find is makes the world of work way less stressful. That I can just kind of, I don't feel guilty if I get in late or leave early because I know that I'm doing a good job. Or
most of my friends work in jobs where they have to be at their desk at a certain time, and you can see the massive pressure, even when it's totally out of their control, of them being just even 5-10 minutes late, and how much anxiety that causes, which is frankly hugely unnecessary. Yeah, and like kind of ridiculous if you think about it.
And if you have other pressures outside of work, if you've got
childcare or
children, I
mean, getting around a big city.
One of your friends, I remember, didn't you say she'd have to get up really, really early to drop her kid off and get super stressed to because if she was late, it was really frowned upon and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, basically working a real scheduling tightrope, which if only one link in the chain went wrong, which could be her daughter just playing up that morning and saying, I don't want to wear this dress, I want to wear that dress instead, and demanding to be like just crap like that, like, which does happen.
Yeah. It's life, isn't it?
And thinking, oh, right, well, as a result of this, I now can see the chain reaction, and I'm now going to be walking into my office 10 minutes late, and my boss is going to be like tapping the watch going, what's going on here? And I just kind of found that, like, that just seems, I just wouldn't want any of our staff to ever think
it's the
like
wrong
that.
thing to,
like, if that's
all the thing you're spending your mental energy on, that shouldn't be it.
Well, let's say, look, we work in pretty creative jobs, right? So let's say all of that negative energy is flying around the room, all the guilt and the anxiety and stress, and then you sit down at your desk and you've got to put together a pitch deck of new ideas for a new client.
Yeah.
Well, how good is that going to be? Yeah. Pretty bloody rubbish, I would have thought.
And it is, if you think about it, well, it's just ridiculous. The whole thing is absurd because 10 minutes doesn't make any difference. I could get there at 9 o'clock and then I could go and fuck around on Facebook.
Well,
for
to
10
be
minutes.
honest, if you're that stressed, you may be sat there, but you're not present. You're not in the moment. You're probably going to spend the next 20 minutes just decompressing what's gone on. So, like,
and feeling resentful, feeling guilty over your kid because you probably shouted at them that morning because they didn't get dressed. It's not their fault. I just think it's a weird. And it's based on a really old-fashioned view of, the industrial age of where you were sat putting widgets together.
Yeah, and it made sense that in the old days, without the communication tools we have now, you needed a sort of collective agreement that we will all turn up at this place in time at the same time. We have almost no way of actually saying if we're not going to be there, right? So that sort of punctuality, is that the right word?
Yeah,
I don't know, for some reason it was like punctuation. Anyway, that was important because otherwise the group couldn't, co-work together. But that just isn't how we operate now.
No.
And it's not needed in the same degree. And yes, some things are like, we had a pitch this morning, right? It's 11 a.m. So we all get there for 11 a.m. or just before 11 a.m. so that we can set up. Like, that's just an agreed thing. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But other things don't, and it's about having a judgment on that. And if you're living your every day to this sort of artificial, very, very stressful, very constrained schedule, it just doesn't correlate perfectly with how humans actually operate and how good work is done.
Yeah, you're not magically productive at 9 o'clock and then you suddenly switch off at 6 o'clock.
Like, if you want me to walk into a room and impress new clients, like, don't put me in a stress bubble just before. Yeah. Trust me, it's going to emanate that I'm not in my full self when I'm in there. So what do you want? I think honestly, the world of work now is about moments. It's about key moments, about delivering great ideas, doing things, having those breakthroughs, and not about hours and hours of effort. Yeah. It's about key things like, what do I want to get done this week? By the end of this week, where do I want us to be along? Where do I want to be along in my project and this and that? And having those breakthroughs, which sometimes is just a conversation. Sometimes it's just, having that good meeting with that customer or partner. And because it went really well, you know what? You broke through to the next barrier, right? But that conversation might have been 20 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and other times as well, even when you're working, quite often I need to take it, just get up and do something else for 20 minutes just to...
Yeah.
And so the whole idea of you being in a place at a particular time, unless someone else is relying on you, as you say, if you've got a meeting or you're pitching to a client or whatever. But yeah, that whole notion. So I think really, in conclusion, I suppose what we're saying is it's not necessarily about unlimited vacation policy. It's about, flexible working.
It's about unstructured daily life.
Yeah, and a holiday is a bit of an extension of that. You go, now I'm go, in the same way that I might turn up late or leave early or whatever, but I'm doing. That doesn't mean I'm only working between those hours of the day. And same with holidays as well. Not that I would say that people have to do this, but most people, you certainly do, I certainly do. When we're on holiday, we'll probably end up doing a bit of work as well because we just do. Partly I kind of like it, and partly, it's required. Sort of thing.
I know. That's all kind of. I suppose it's a subject for another time. It is a bit tricky that one. Sometimes you do want that genuine break, but the other thing is, I always used to, when I had a job where I couldn't even if I wanted to do any work on holiday, because I had a desktop computer and I didn't have any access to it like old days.
Yeah.
You just come back to a mountain of work. And also like the first day back was just an avalanche. But actually, I know that if I just clock in a bit whilst I'm away, I can come back without the inbox of doom, without like an enormous to-do list, and actually come back kind of rested, but also not immediately then stressed up again. So yeah,
it's almost like it's with the way we work is that you have a balance during the day between how much work you're doing and how much other stuff in your life you're doing. And when you go on holiday, you just flip it a little bit.
Yeah,
you kind of up it a little bit and then back down. Or if you're having maybe it's Friday and you've got something to do on a Friday, you need to leave early because you're going away for the weekend or something. It's just kind of more of just flexing it rather than saying, as we did in the old days, is like, I'm on holiday from Monday, and as you say, if all your work is at work, then you can't physically work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't. You have to physically be there to do your work. So you can understand why people have said, well, you need to be in at 9 and leave at 6. Otherwise, we don't know that you're actually doing any work. Or you're not doing any work because you're not in the place where work happens. But yeah, it just kind of seems like we're still kind of clinging on to that. And again, came back to the thing that I said when we first started this, is when you tell this to people, not everybody, but a few people that I've talked to who don't kind of work in this sort of world, and you go, yeah, we've got an unlimited vacation policy. They go, well, how does that work then? Don't people just take the piss, don't they?
But that's what everyone always says. Every time they think of something, they just immediately go to the most crazy edge case. It's like anytime anyone did we'll get users to upload photos. Like the immediate client is like, oh my God, they're all going to upload porn.
Yeah, that never happened.
It doesn't actually happen. It's like as soon as anything kind of new or sounding a bit kind of unusual, radical idea is floated, the human brain just goes to this extreme edge case. It just assumes that that's the norm. Actually, you know what? The hardest thing is to get anyone to upload pictures, anyone to do it at all. Not to stop them uploading loads of like porn.
Yeah.
In the same way that having an unlimited holiday policy is the same thing. It's actually the hardest thing is to get people to take the holiday, not to stop people joining your company and then going on 9-month world round trips.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't happen.
So I suppose in conclusion, I think we've probably done it for the right reasons, which was, as I say, it was that kind of philosophical. We want to trust. We want people that we can trust. We want people who are smart, driven, want to do a good job. And regardless of whether they're on holiday, if they don't do that, we'll discover them pretty quickly. It's not like we're a soft touch. Like if people aren't performing, they won't be working for us for very long.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think the way that you measure performance is a factor of what time they get to the office and what time they leave the office. I don't think those two things are in any way correlated, because someone could be sat there daydreaming on social media, or as you sort of said earlier, because they're so stressed, they might have a mental block. They're actually not being at all productive. They're just sitting there sort of fretting or worrying. So I think, it makes absolute sense for me, at least, to not kind of link those two things and say that one equals the other, or there's some sort of metric, the metric being how long you're sat at your desk. But at the same time, we also know that this isn't the nirvana that we didn't discover it, and B, that we're the enlightened ones, because actually it does have its other potential problems in that people, you need to give people permission to take that holiday. It's almost easier if you say you've got 25 days holiday or 20 days holiday, because they can... Yeah.
I think that's probably where we'll end up. We'll have a vacation policy, which will be a bit more rigid, and then we'll have a flexible working policy. And I think that seems like the right balance.
You heard it here first, folks. Okay, well, I hope that's been illuminating.
Go on holiday, book holiday.
Yeah, that's our view on flexible working and unlimited holidays. But cool. Till next time.
Bye.